This conference will now be recorded.
So we have the class called state components that extends React the components. Yeah. And like I already said, in a class-based component, you have your render method, and your render method must return JSX. And that JSX is what you use to render stuff to your users, what you use to show to your users. So you create a render method. Yeah. Like I already said, a method is just a function inside the class. Yeah. So my text editor is showing me red because I'm not returning anything. And it says your render method should have a return statement. So I return I and the state component. Yeah. And then like I already said, we need to let other files be able to import this component. So we export it, state component. Yeah. Alright. So I save. And then inside my index.js, I need to render this component out to my users. So I come here and I import state component from state component. Yeah. And then here we render the state component instead of the former component that was there. All right. So if we save and we come back, you should see. I don't know if you guys can see this, but let me zoom in. All right. So you should see I am a state component. Yeah. But we want more than that. We don't just want to show text anymore. We want to actually show the users our data that changes over time. Yeah. So when you're using states, state belongs to a class. Yeah, it belongs to a component. Yeah. So this is our state component, Yeah. So we create a state object. Yeah. And creating a state object is simply just the same way you create a variable. We do something like that inside the class. So we do state is equals to an object. Yeah. Because state is usually an object. Yeah. And then let's just call this, let's have a variable called count. Yeah. So we're saying inside our state object, we have a variable or an entry called count. Yeah. And count is set to 0. Yeah. So what we're going to have now is we're going to have a button. Every time a user clicks that button, we want to increment count by 1. And by the time we're done, we should have something like if I click the button 5 times, I should see this button has been clicked 5 times or have been clicked 5 times. Yeah. So first we create the state object, which is this, and then we create an entry or a property called count on it. And that count is set to 0. Yeah. So like I already said, we're going to have a button, yeah, that we click. So typically what you do is you hear you have a button and you hear that you have to show something to your users. That means we have 2 elements, something like a button and then a h1 tag or a p1 tag. Yeah, to render I have been clicked how many times. But like I already said, in React or and JSX, when you have multiple elements, they have to have a parent. Yeah. So we can't just do something like button and p, because we'll get an error. They don't have a parent element. So we have to have a parent element that wraps them. And typically you just need something like a div. Yeah. So we have our button, our HTML button, regular HTML button. Clicking. Yes. And then we have our text. Now this is what shows the user how many times they've clicked that button. Yeah. So I just write I have been clicked. So we want to show how many times the button has been clicked. I remember in our previous example, when you want to use JavaScript inside JSX, you have to escape it by opening a curly brace and a closing brace. Yeah, this. So now we want to use actual JavaScript. We want to show the user a variable. Yeah, and that variable we want to show them, that value we want to show them is this count here. Yeah. So now to access your states, to actually use your state after you've declared it, you do this dot state. Yeah. But we don't just want to show just the state. We want to show a particular subsection of that state, and that subsection is count. or that part, that the property we care about right now is count. So you do I have been clicked this dot state dot count. Yeah, times. So when this count is 0, it will show I have been clicked 0 times. Yeah. So if we save and we come back here, we should see something like this. I have been clicked 0 times. Yeah. So now even if we click this button, it doesn't do anything because we've not told you what to do. We've not told the button that when you are clicked, increment this dot state dot count by 1 or by 2. All it knows is that there's a button and there's text. Yeah. So now we actually need to connect this button, yeah, to our state. Yeah. So to do that, basically, let me just give a little intro or background on this. Basically, the way your browser works is everything is event based in your browser. Yeah. So as I'm moving this like this, as I'm moving my cursor, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but if I click a button, that's an event. If I move my mouse, it's an event. So basically, your browser keeps track of events over time that happens on your web page. Yeah. That way, you can see stuff like when you click on a button, something opens up. The reason why that thing opens up is because it's listening on that event and then it reacts on that event. Yeah. So there are various events on your browser. There's a click event. Yeah. There's a change event. So change events happens in stuff like let's say you have an input form on your web page and you're typing that input text, that input element. Every time you type, the value changes. So that's a change event. Yeah. If you have an input like now the address bar on my browser, when I click in here, this event is called focus because I'm focused on it. Yeah. When I come out, the event that's captured is called focus out or focus exit or blow. Sorry, it's called blow. Yeah. So there are various events that happen in your browser over time. But right now, the events we care about is the click event. Yeah. And we care about that click event occurring on this button. Yeah. So to recap what I just said, your browser keeps track of events that happen over time, and those events can happen on elements. Yeah. And a possible event that can happen on this button is a click event. Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to say when this button is clicked, increment our counter. Yeah. So that's basically how events work. I will share a link on events in browser and how to um react based on what happens. So what we want to do now is react whenever this button is clicked. So we come back to this button, yeah, and we type. So in React, when you want to react to an event, or when you want to pick an event, you do something like, so I want to work with the click event. So I say on click, yeah, inside here, I say on click, and I open this equals to. And like I already said, when you want to work with JavaScript values or expressions in JSX, you have to escape. So we escape, yeah, and then we do this dot handle click. Yeah. So what are we saying? We're saying when this button is clicked, call this function or call this method. Yeah. But this method doesn't exist yet, so we create it on our component. Yeah. So to create methods, just like render, we do something like handle click. Yeah. So each event takes receives each event method gets called with the name of the event. Yeah. So this handle click is going to be called with event in here. Yeah. So console log event. All right. So what is happening here is when this button is clicked, we're telling the browser that we want this method to be called. Yeah, we want this to handle click to be called. And the reason why it's called this is because it belongs to this component. So we're saying handle click that belongs to this component should be called. Yeah. And basically when an event occurs and you pass a method, that method is going to be called with an argument, and that argument is it can be anything. I can call this e. Typically in React over time you see that some people call it e. It can be anything because it's just an argument. So let me just call it event. Yeah. So I'm going to log this event so you see how it looks like. So let me see. And then let me open my browser console. I don't know if you can see my console clear enough, but I'll try and zoom in. All right. So I click on this button. Yeah. And then I see some events over. I see something comes up. So when I click, or forget all of this. Um, All right, so you should see something like type is click. Yeah. So the event type is click. Yeah. So basically that way we can tell that all right, we have access to events. Yeah. We can actually access what's going on in that event itself. So we've established that we can capture that event. Yeah. Now what we want to do is we want to actually update this count when that event occurs. Yeah. So we want to do something like this. So we want to say when your clicks update um when your clicks update this count. Yeah. So we say this dots. So in React, when you want to update state, you don't just update state directly. Yeah. We can't do this dot state plus plus. Yeah. We have to actually use something called set state. Yeah. So we're going to do something like this dot set state. Yeah. So set state basically is a function, yeah, that gets called with an object. Yeah. And that object should contain the name you want to update in your state. So we want to update counts. Yeah. And what do you want to update counts to? We want to say based on what count was before, we want to increment it by 1. So basically we're going to do something like this dot state dot count plus 1. Yeah. So if we save, we should get an error in the browser when we click, and to tell you this is undefined. This is a common error that a lot of beginners have with React, and also a problem I had too. Because I kept on wondering, what do you mean this is undefined? I'm doing everything that the tutorial says I should do, or the website says I should do, and I'm still getting an error. So the reason why is I think it's out of the scope of this lesson, but it's based on how JavaScript handles this. So this here, it's a different Wahala on its own, but it's quite easy to learn. Yeah. So to go out to fix the issue, you have something called a constructor. Yeah. So each class has a constructor in JavaScript. Yeah, but I'm not going to go too in detail about it. But basically, constructor is called when you have a component. It's the first thing React calls in a component. So you just have a constructor method. Yeah. So what we want to do now is we want to tell React that so when you call handle click, this refers to me. Yeah. So we're going to do something like sorry. So in constructors, you have to call super first. Oops. So this particular piece of code, don't worry about it too much. I'm going to provide an explanation as to why you have to do this in your constructors in React components. But for now, just know that it's required. Yeah. The constructor props and super props. If you have any more questions about it, just ask me. I'll take our time to explain it to you. So you just add this piece of code. Yeah. And then we say this the handle click. Yeah. Is equals to this the handle click the bind this. All right. So let me quickly explain why you have to do this. All right. So in classes, a constructor is a method that is called when you create a new instance of the class. Yeah. So what that means is that the first time React comes in contact with this component, yeah, before it uses it, this method here is called. Yeah. And it calls it with passes an argument called props. So prop stands for properties. Yeah. So it gives this constructor access to the properties of this component. Yeah. And then super here means when you have a class that extends another class, when you call super, you're calling that other class. Yeah. So we're calling super here, meaning we're calling React or components. We're calling the parent class. Yeah. So and I'm also calling it with the props. So basically, we're telling the parent class about the props. We're saying, okay, parent class, these are my properties. Do with it what you want to do with it. Yeah. So we call super and props. So basically, what React does under the hood, this line here is the same thing as, sorry, let me have a comment. It's the same thing as React or component with the props. So that's basically what super means. Yeah. So super refers to the parent class that you're extending. Yeah. So I'm basically saying React or components with the props. All right. So after doing that, this is the piece of code we actually care about here. Yeah. So I'm saying this to handle click, this method here, we want to bind it to this. So this here refers to here. All right. Yeah. All right. So I'm saying this to handle click, yeah, while we're assigning the value here and we're binding it to this. So basically in JavaScript, when you bind a method, you're basically changing the this context. Yeah. But this particular keyword called this is a different, it's out of scope for now. Yeah. But in React, in basically in your React code, you have to do this in your constructors most of the time. You have to do this in your constructors most of the time. Yeah. So basically you're binding it to this. Yeah. So it's there's a different way to do this. Yeah. If this is too confusing for you, I don't know if you guys, how many of you have done arrow functions? Just indicate if you had any experience using arrow function. So just type yes if you know about arrow functions. All right. So I'm guessing no one has used arrow functions, but that's not important. Yeah. So let me go through this again. You have a constructor, yeah. So the constructor basically just says before React actually uses me, I want to do the following. This is like you're preparing your components before React uses it, yeah. So your constructor is the very first thing that gets called, yeah, and then your constructor gets called with the properties of that component, yeah. So we're getting in props. Yeah, we can call these properties or anything, but typically in most React code, you see it's typed as props, yeah. So you're calling super with props, and super refers to the parent class. So super refers to React component. And I'm basically telling React component that okay, these are my properties. Yeah. And then line 7 here, basically, if you remember, the error we're getting here is this is undefined. Yeah. Now the reason why this is undefined is because inside this method handle click, it doesn't know what this refers to. Yeah. So we need to explicitly tell handle click that this refers to the actual components here. Yeah. So I'm saying this the handle click and we're binding it. So basically when you bind a method, you're changing the this context, you're changing the this. And we're saying okay, this should refer to here. Yeah. So you see, don't think about it too much. When I started writing React, I didn't necessarily understand, but I had like a at least I could say what I was using it for. I could explain that the reason why I am binding this method here is because it will be undefined here. Yeah. And if you want to know more about how binding works and how this context works, I can share links with you. But for now, just know that when you want to use this within your methods, you come in, create a constructor, and you bind this to this. Yeah. So we see. So when we click it now, you should see its increments. All right. So let me reload the page again. Yeah. So I click it the first time. I see I have been clicked one time. This is an error. So I click it again. I see I have been clicked 2 times. And when I keep on clicking it, it increments. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to go through how that works again. So basically here we're telling the button when you get clicked, yeah, increment count. So when you get when this button gets clicked, this method gets called here. Yeah. And when this method gets called, basically what we're doing inside the method is we're doing this to set state. So like I already said, set state is how you update your state. If for example, you might be thinking, this is so long, why can't I just do something like this dot state dot count plus plus, or this dot state dot count is equals to this dot state dot count plus 1. Yeah. Now the reason why you wouldn't do this is because you are mutating the state. So let me see. And when I do it again, it won't even work. Yeah. Well, so most times you probably even get an error yourself. Yeah. And then the reason why it won't work is because React has this concept of immutability. So immutability means that something does not change. Yeah, it is the same. Yeah. And for something not to change and for you to actually use it, we have to create a new variable each time. Yeah. So that's why when I do this, it won't work. And if I hover over it, I see my editor tells me do not mutate state directly. use set state. Yeah. So one key practice you should know is in React you don't update your states by yourself. Yeah, you don't update states directly. You use set states, and because of immutability. Yeah. So you're not changing the actual variable. You're creating a new one. So instead of doing something like this is what we should be doing. So we should be doing this instead. Yeah. Or better still, we can create a new variable called const new count. Yeah, and new count is equals to this your state your count plus one. Yeah, and then we set count here to new count. So we're not directly updating counts. Yeah, what we're doing is we're creating a new variable and we're adding plus one. Yeah, after this is done, this count is still going to refer to zero until we come here and we do this and we pass in the new variable. Okay, I will share the extension. It's a VS Code in your VS Code browser, if you're in your VS Code code editor, if you're using VS Code, go to the extensions tab and search for React and install the React extension. Yeah, I will share. I don't know if you need the write-up on how to do that. I can share that with you. So basically, like I already said, in React, you don't directly update the state. Yeah, you don't mutate it. So mutation basically means changing it from what it already is. What you do is you create a copy of that and then you update that copy, like we're already doing here. So I'm saying this.state.count plus one. And we're storing the result of that calculation here. Yeah, inside new count. And I'm basically telling, okay, React, this count variable, I don't want to update it directly. I want to replace it entirely. And I replace it with this.count is equals to the new count. Yeah. And then inside our render method, we see this p element here. And basically, we're just saying I have been clicked, and then we're reading this count here. Yeah. So we come here and we see that it's updates when we click it. Yeah. All right. So I'll go through it again for the ones that I didn't get it. Yeah. So let me clear everything. All right. So like I already said, we want to show how many times the button has been clicked. Yeah. So we have a render method. All components have a render method that returns JSX. Yeah, JSX is what React uses to render out your actual components, what it uses to show your users what you want to show them. So we return, and because we're going to have a button and an actual P element, we want to have a parent. We need to have a parent element to house them. So we have a parent element. Yeah, and then we want to have a button that says click me. Yeah, and then we want to have a P tag. Sorry. That says how many times that button has been clicked. So you say I have been clicked. Yeah, but we need to actually keep track of how many times that button has been clicked. Yeah, so we need to keep track of the data. Yeah, and basically in React, when you're working with data that you care about in your components, they're going to be stored in something called states. Yeah, so state is basically any data that changes during the lifespan of your component. Any data that you feel like might change. If the data doesn't change, it doesn't really need to be in state. It can just be a regular variable that you have around. Yeah. But because that counts, the variable that we're going to be tracking is going to change every time the button gets clicked. We need to tell React that, okay, please keep track of this for me. So we store it in states. So state is an object here. The state is equals to count. Yeah. And then by default, we'll say state is 0. So the first time we come on the page, state is going to be 0. That's the base value. State can be 10. That can be the starting value. It can be anything we want it to be, but now we're saying state.count is 0. Yeah. Yes, it must be. So it must be named states. That's the way React knows to actually like how to. So we come here and we say I have been clicked. So this refers to your component. This the state, the count. Yeah. All right. So we're saying I have clicked this dot state dot count times. So we come back to this page, we see I have clicked 0 times because that's the default number. So if I update it to, let me say, count should be 20. Yeah, you see 20 times because that's the default. Yeah. So right now we're not changing anything, just showing default value. And if you click the button, nothing is going to happen because we've not told it what to do when the button gets clicked. Yeah. So like I already said, everything that happens in your browser while you're on the web page is an event. Clicking this button is an event. Moving my mouse around is an event. Yeah. So basically, what we want to do is we want to react based on this event, this clicking event. Yeah. So in order to react to that or to do some action based on an event occurring, we use event handlers. Yeah. So basically, to use an event handler in React, you do something like on and the name of an event. So in my VS Code, you can see when I type on, it shows me a list of various events. So I can see on abort capture, on animation end, on blur, basically a list of events. But the event we actually care about right now is on click. Yeah, we care about the on click event. So we do on click is equals to, or handle click rather. Yeah. So handle click basically is a method we are going to create now. Yeah. So basically, in React, methods are called with, in React, event handlers. So event handlers are the methods you pass to an event. Yeah. So this handle click here is an event. So this method, and if we log the event, so basically what I'm saying is when this button gets clicked, call this method. This method is going to be called with the event, and I just log. So I'm going to log the event to show you how it looks like. So I click on this, I see the event. It shows you something like this, yeah. But right now, we don't really care about the value, like the actual value of that event. What we want to do is we want to update this count, yeah. So like I already said, you don't update your states directly because you're going to be mutating states. Yeah, you don't do it directly. You update it by using set states, yeah. So I'm saying this does set states count. Yeah, and passing an object. So basically, there are two ways to update state. Basically, to use this set state, you can pass an object or you can use a function. But that one is not. We're not going to handle that right now. So basically, we pass this object, yeah, and then we have an entry called count, which refers to this original count here. And I'm saying this does state dot count plus one. Okay, meaning that we're saying the former state. So if this is 20, we're just adding one to it. It's going to be 21. If it's 22, we're just adding one to it. Yeah. So we save, and then we come to our browser and we click it, but we get an error. And the error says this is undefined. Yeah. Now what this means is that when this gets called, when this handle click gets called, it doesn't know what this is. It doesn't know that this refers to our component. Now, in order to inform it that when you get called, this refers to state component, we have to bind it. Now, to bind methods, we do that inside the constructor. You can bind a method anywhere, but in React, the common thing to do is to bind it inside the constructor method. Yeah. And basically, constructor method is the first thing that gets called in your class on your components. It's the very first thing React calls in your component. Yeah. So we have constructor, and he calls the constructor with the properties of that component. So he calls it with something called props. So prop stands for properties. Yeah. And in constructors, if you're extending a base class or if you're extending the parent class, you need to call that parent class first. So we do super and props. So basically what this means is that we're telling React that okay, um let React.component know my properties because it's my parent class. Yeah, I need to inform it about these properties I have. Yeah, and then what we now do here, we say this dot handle click rather is equals to this. Why is event argument below? Like it is not being used. Yeah, so it's not being used because I don't care about the content of the event. Yeah. The reason why I don't care about the content of the event is all I'm doing here is I'm saying counts should be updated whenever that event occurs. Yeah, I will show you instances where we actually care about the content of the event. In instances like you're typing, yeah, you have an input value. Every time that input value changes, we want to extract that value from that input. We care about the content of the event. Yeah, and we'll get to that after this. So I'll show you instances where we actually care about it. But for now, I don't need this event. Yeah, I might as well just remove this and it will still work. Yeah, but I want to show you that event handlers get called with the event. Yeah, so basically inside our constructor. So let me reply this question. Okay. All right. So inside our constructor, we call super, that is the parents class, which is React component, and we let it know our properties. Yeah. So now the actual reason why we came here is to let handle click know what this is. Okay. And to let you know what this refers to, we bind it. So we do something like this on handle click, but bind this. Yeah. So when we save and when we come here, so I already said, here I set count to 20. Yeah. So the first thing you see here is I've been clicked 20 times. This is the default um count. Yeah. So each time we click it updates now. So it starts from 21, 25, 27, 28, and whatnot. Yeah. Um Sorry. I think I'm having issues with my screen. Okay. So can you guys still see my screen? I don't know if alright, so please if you can still see the screen, kindly indicate so I can for some reason. Okay. Okay. So that's one person. Okay, two people. All right. Okay, so I'll continue. All right, so we said the default count is 20. Yeah. So let me reload this page. So you see it's default to 20, and every time I click, it just basically increments. Yeah. So if for some reason we want to increment by 10 each time we click, we can just say this is a state account plus 10. Yeah. So what that means is that we're saying every time this button here gets clicked, I want to increment the count by 10. Yeah. So I save, come here, and I click. So you see it goes from 30 to 50 to 60. Yeah. All right. I'm currently trying to sort out my display for some reason. Okay. All right. Sorry. So yeah, basically we set it that every time count gets updated, increment by 10. Yeah. So every time this button gets clicked, it goes from 80 to 90 to whatever. Yeah. All right. So that's basically how state works. Yeah. You have states that you have in your app, and then you update it inside methods. Yeah. And when you want to update it, that method needs to know what this refers to. Yeah. And then basically, in order to let you know what this refers to, you have to bind it inside the constructor. And basically, this is what we're doing here. All right. So, okay. So now to show you instances where we actually care about the content of the event, I'll create an input element. Yeah. So I'll just type down here, create an input. The type is text. Yeah. The name is let me say task. Yeah. And then close it. Yeah. So let me just set the placeholder is type something. So save and then come back in. All right. So we see a simple input element here. Yeah. Regular HTML input element. And then when we type, the thing gets updated. Yeah. I mean, when we type, we see whatever we type. It returns into the session. All right. So we have the regular HTML input element here. Yeah. And what we want to do is we want an instance where sorry, hello? Okay, I don't know who just tried to speak, but if you have a question, you can type it in here because I couldn't hear you. Okay. So what we want to do is we have our inputs, we have an input element here, yeah, and we want an instance where every time I type something, it shows at the bottom, yeah. So if I type my name is Chukudi or my name is Chudi, I want it to show at the bottom, yeah. So in order to do that, based on the exercise we did, we need to store this value here in our state and we need to render it, yeah. So in order to do that, every time you type something in an input form, it emits a change event, yeah. So the value is changing. Each for with each character I type, the value changes, yeah. And to illustrate that, inside our input elements, we come here, we create an event handler called onChange, yeah. So we're saying onChange is equals to this your handle change, yeah. All right. So right now, obviously, my browser is going, my editor is going to show me red lines because I don't have a handle change method defined. Yeah. So I create a handle change method. And like I already said, event handlers are going to be called with the actual event that I'll code. So we have the events. Yeah. And then we just log this event, console.log events. Yeah. So if I come in here in my browser, so my console is open. Yeah. So each time I type something here, this event comes out. So with each character, a change is occurring. And as you can see, the type of the event is changed. Yeah. So each time I type, it updates. Yeah. So it means with each keystroke, like I already said, so the browser keeps track of a lot of events. So each time you type something on the web page, that's an event. Each new character is an event. Yeah. And what we want to do is with each character we have, we want to update a particular portion of our state. Yeah. So let's add a new entry to our states. Let's call this entry task. Yeah. So the task is going to be set to an empty string because task is going to be a string. Yeah, we want to just render a string out like a text to the user. Yeah. And what we want to do is each time someone types a new character, we want to update this task. Yeah. So inside our handle change, we come here and we do okay. So before we even get started, so let me log the event. Sorry, so I can show you something. All right. So I type something. I see an object. Yeah. I see output here. Output comes out in my browser. So if you can see, there's an entry here called target. Yeah. So target refers to this input here. Target refers to the actual HTML elements that event occurs on. Yeah. So if I log console.log event.target, yeah. So I just want to show you what the target actually looks like. So console.log event.target. What do I see? I see this exact. So I see input type is equals to text. Name is task, and the placeholder is type something. Yeah. And then when we come here, this is basically what we created. This is the input we created. Yeah. So event target refers to the HTML elements that the event occurred on. Yeah. So event target refers to this value here. Yeah. And then basically with and this is not just specific to React, it's JavaScript basically. With JavaScript, when an event occurs on the target, like an input element, you can access the value. So if we do event.target.value, we will have access to what is being typed here. So I type A, event.target.value refers to what is actually inside that input. So if I type B, the new target.value is AB. If I type C, yeah. So as I type, that value gets updated. The value refers to what is inside that element at this time. Yeah. So I'll go do it again. Every time you type something in an input element, an event gets emitted. Yeah. And that event is called change. And you want to react based on that change event. Yeah. So like I already said, event handlers gets called with event and the target. So event.target refers to the elements that event occurred on. Yeah. So event.target here refers to this element over here. Yeah. And then each target, input forms or input elements, they have a value. Yeah. So event.target.value refer to what is currently inside it right now. So if I say 10, event.target is equals to 10. Yeah. If I type A, B, event.target.value was initially A, then I type B. Yeah. So at any given time, it refers to what is inside. Yeah. So now what we want to do is we want to say whatever is inside here, we want to keep track of it and render it below. Yeah. So we come below, have a regular p tag. Yeah. And then we type the new task is let me just render it. Yeah. So I say this the state the task. Yeah. But right now, if you come here, you won't see anything because our task, we won't see anything come out here because our task is still empty. Yeah, we're not updating it yet. We're not saying, okay, every time this input element here changes, set the task to that value. Yeah. Now, in order to do that, we have to get access to the value. Yeah. We do const value. Yeah. It's equals to the events the target. So target here refers to this input. Yeah. And we want to say this input element, we want your value. So event the target the value. Yeah. So we have the value. Yeah. And then what we want to do here is we want to say this the set state. We're still going to, so right now this method here, we're still going to change it afterwards. But let's just go forward. So this is the set state, yeah. Task. Because once update our task, task is going to be value. Yeah. So what do we do here again? We have an input element with a type of text. So it's a text input element, and the name is task. The placeholder says type something. And basically, we're listening for this event. We're saying every time the value inside the input element changes, we want to perform the following action here. Yeah. So event handlers get called with the name of with the event. Yeah. And then event handlers have a property called target. Target refers to the actual elements that event happened on or the event occurred. Yeah. And then we want to access the value of that target. So we want to access the value of this input element here. Yeah. So now we're getting that value. We're saying const value is equals event to target the value. Yeah. And we're saying we're setting the state of the task because we want to render, we want this whatever is inside this element here, we want to render it below here. We want to keep track of that. Yeah. So basically we're setting the state. We're saying this is the set state to task is equals to the value. Yeah. So if we save and we actually type something, we see this is undefined, just like the initial problem we had. Yeah. Now the reason why this is undefined is because handle change doesn't know what this refers to, so we have to bind it. Yeah. So we say this dot handle change, yeah, is equals to this dot handle change dot bind this. So now when handle change gets called, it knows that this refers to this component. Yeah. So within your constructor, the constructor knows what this is. Yeah, it knows what this refers to. Yeah. So we save. Yeah. So we come here and type. So you should see whatever you type. Yeah. So if I clear this and I type my name, is Chukwu, you should see it update below. All right. So person has a question. Can go ahead. Any question? All right. So someone asks. So we have to bind every function. No, you don't. You don't have to bind every function. Like if you can tell, in handle change when we're logging the events, when we're doing console.log the events, we didn't need to bind it. So you only need to bind in methods that says this in React. Yeah. The alternative to that is using arrow functions. When you use arrow functions, you don't have to bind every time. So to show you an illustration of how that would look like, yeah, let me remove this. Let me just comment it out. Yeah. So I comment it out. I get the error. This is undefined. Yeah. So instead of using regular, okay, so the person is,
Hello.
hello? Yeah, hi.
Yeah, can you hear me? I have a question.
Okay.
When can you scroll up a bit
Okay.
to the beginning of the class? Because what I know about constructors, they are used to pass arguments when an instance is created. But state components, the class state components itself, you didn't create any instance. So why are you able to use this in the first place?
So React creates instance under the hood. Yeah. So you know you have a class, yeah. So you actually use this method inside the class. You have to create an instance, yeah. So under the hood, React does something like let me just new component is equal to new state component. So under the hood, yeah, React actually instantiates your class for you. Yeah. So it actually creates an instance of your class. Yeah. So that's why we have access to this here. So the constructor, so when you create a new instance of a class, the constructor is the first thing that gets called. The constructor gets called. Yeah. And React does something like this. React will call, when React is instantiating your components, it will call it with props. Yeah.
With the arguments.
Yes, with the arguments, exactly. So it passes props to it. Yeah. So that's why we have access to props. And then we need to, so remember the reason why we're extending React.components is because we want to inherit the behavior of the components. Yeah. And then we need to inform React.component about the properties. Yeah. So if I remove this line, yeah, I will even my code editor will not even allow me. And this is, and the thing is, it's not even specific to React. Basically, it's a JavaScript thing. In constructors, when you extend a base class and you have a constructor, you need to call super. You need to let the parent components or the parent class know about that constructor or whatever.
And the properties.
Yeah, exactly. So if I save now and I come, I even see like from the very beginning. Okay, sorry. Let me even implement this. Okay. this hasn't been initialized, super hasn't been called. Yeah. So we need to let
Okay.
React or
Okay.
components know about the property there. So we call super with the props. Yeah. So
All right, I get.
okay. All right. In place of binding from time, we have to best practice of placing a copy. Something like well this so that we can access this context using. Yes, so this is a very nice question. Um Prior to when I started using arrow functions, I used to do what so this is Somoye Ayotunde. Is this the person talking? Okay. But like prior to when I started using arrow functions, I used to do this. So I'll assign this to a different variable so I can use it. Yeah. And that works. But a better alternative to that is using arrow functions. Yeah. So an arrow function will have it inherits this context. Yeah. So let me show an example. Um I have I've not yet binded handle change. Yeah. So when I come here and I type, I get an error. Yeah. So instead of using a regular function, I can use an arrow function. So let me comment this out. Yeah. So an arrow functions look something like this. Handle change is equals to events. Yeah. So I just copy this here. All right. So basically, an arrow function looks like this. Yeah. So an arrow function is a nameless. Oh, my screen is off. Okay, it's back now. Okay. All right. So an arrow function is a nameless function. It doesn't have a name. Yeah. But what we're doing here is we're assigning this arrow function to this handle change property. Yeah. So if we save, remember we're not binding it here. This line is uncommented out. Yeah. So when we come here and we type, it works. Yeah. So that's why I asked if you guys had done arrow functions. Yeah. But you can go up and read on arrow functions. They look like they're just like regular functions, except that they handle this differently. So an arrow function inherits this context. So I'm not going to go too deep in that, but yeah. But I think we might have like a separate class, or I don't know, it depends on you guys, where I just explain how arrow functions and this works. Yeah. But for now, if you're using regular functions, just know that you bind it. When you want to access this inside your method, you have to bind it to this context. So it knows what this refers to. Yeah. So me initially when I started writing React, I felt like it was very tedious. So it means that if I have 10 methods, I have to bind it 10 times, which is I mean it's quite stressful. Yeah. So an alternative to that is using arrow functions, yeah, which is shorter and it's less stressful. Yeah. But for now we can use this because it works. Yeah. And then that was a nice question, Shomoyi Ayotunde. So in certain instances that might work. That will work actually. That will work. So yeah. But in React, um, the alternative to binding is to use arrow functions. Yeah. All right. So save. When I come back here and I type, yeah. So it updates. All right. So I'll go over it again. So we have our class. Yeah. And our class is called state component. Yeah. And now we need this class to have the properties of a React component. So we extend React to a component. Yeah. And then, like I already said, React components need to have a render method, or class-based components need to have render methods. Yes, arrow functions does not require binding this. Yeah, they don't. So the reason why arrow functions don't require to bind this is because arrow functions by design inherit this context. Yeah. This explaining this is going to turn into a binding class, but I'm open to discussing it and explaining it in a separate class, or even immediately after the class, you can text me or ask questions. Yeah. about it. But basically, if you feel comfortable using arrow functions, you can use them right now. Yeah, I can delete all of these bindings here. No need for the constructor, and change all of this to an arrow function and save. And everything will still work. Oh, no audio. Hello? Can you guys hear me? Okay, what if we still bind the arrow function? Would there be any error? No, you can't bind an arrow function. Okay, you guys can hear me. All right. So let's try, yeah? You can't bind an arrow function, so I have this, yeah? Sorry, I have, so we have, yeah? And then inside my constructor, so we try and bind it, yeah? So this is the handle change is equals to this is the handle change. We'll bind this. Yeah? We won't get an error, but it will still work as expected, yeah? But the thing is, it's not necessarily doing anything because the this here, it just inherits the this context, yeah? So the reason why you might have so many questions is because you're not even seeing where React actually instantiates your class, yeah? But all of that is done under the hood. So React is the one that does new state components. It's one that creates a new instance, yeah? And then basically you have to work around that. So that's why the first time you write this piece of code and you try to call this inside your method, you get an error because you don't know how React instantiates your class. Yeah. So basically, there are two ways to go about that. You can bind this, yeah, or you can use arrow functions. Yeah. So like we already saw, when you bind an arrow function, it doesn't give you an error, but it doesn't necessarily change anything. Yeah, it still works the same way it works without the binding. Yeah. So I'll go back to regular functions for people that don't know how to use arrow functions. So let me just bind and do clip. So I change it back to regular method or regular function. Yeah. So this is back to like, yeah, I think my network is terrible because it just went offline for a minute. Okay. All right. So like I already said, we have our constructor, yeah, and inside our constructor we call super with the props, yeah. So we need to let React or component know about the properties. That's what I call it super, yeah. And basically we're binding handle change so that it can know what this refers to, yeah. So basically when handle change gets called, it knows that this here refers to state components, yeah. All right. So yeah, so save, and it still works like before. So I don't know how many people are actually following along because this and arrow functions tend to be confusing the first time. It might not happen for everybody because there are various instances where you expect it to work in a particular way and it doesn't. Yeah. So you might need to take some time to understand how this works in JavaScript. Yeah. So yeah, so I don't know how many people are fine with me proceeding or fine with us stopping here today. So if you want us to proceed, you can just type proceed. So I know the pace. Okay. So that's just one person. So since you're using constructor, why not just put the state inside the constructor? If you're using both state methods means at the same time. Yeah. Me, I'm already used to because from here you can tell that I don't even use constructors. I typically use arrow functions. That's why I already put it here. So most times in my React code, I don't necessarily use this constructor and bind. I just put everything out here. But instead of putting the state outside, like you already said, I can still do that's still the same thing. Use those states. To still work just like yeah. So we're saying this dot state is equals to this. Yeah, we can still do that. Yeah. But typically me, what I do is this constructor here, yeah, this piece of code for me in most of my projects, I don't necessarily need this. Yeah. What I do is I use arrow functions and I just assign states to an object outside here. Yeah, that way it's faster for me. I don't need to create a constructor. And because for me, I don't need these two pieces of these two lines here. Yeah, so it depends on how you rather do it. You can create this dot state inside your constructor and assign the object here, or you can create it inside the constructor and use it. Either way, it still works. Yeah. So it's up to you on how you rather use it. But yeah. So okay, so what we're going to do for today is it's simple to do how do I call it? A to-do list. Yeah. So basically the way the to-do list is going to work is you type something, you add it to do. Yeah, Babel understands
Please, can I
both.
ask a question?
Yeah, you can ask me a question.
Okay, so if I'm understanding you very well, the reason why we are doing the binding is
Yeah.
because um you want to be able to bind the current state. You don't want it to because the super state, the super constructor, sorry.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, whenever we use this, we're accessing the super constructor, but when we bind it, it enables us to access the current constructor. Is that why we're using bind?
The reason why you're using bind is when you use this here without binding it, it doesn't know what this is called. Yeah, because it's not okay. Let me all right. So let me show you a quick example of how this works in JavaScript. Yeah. So I have a function. Yeah. So let me call the function test. Yeah. And then I'm going to log console.log this. Okay. So this is a function called test, and I'm loading this. Yeah. When I call test, this is refers to the window. Yeah. So basically in JavaScript, this refers to the object that method is called on. So if I have a method called I'll be an object const name, yeah, and I say test is equals to the test method is 10. Yeah. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm saying I'm creating a new object. Yeah. And inside that object, I have a property called test. Yeah. And that test property refers to this function here. And this object has age. Let me call this student, sorry. Yeah. When I do student.test, student.test basically just calls this function here. And this function logs this. Yeah. When I do student.test, this here refers to this object here. Yeah. So this in JavaScript refers to the object on which the function is called. Yeah, so the first time we call this function, there's nothing calling it, we're just calling it directly. This refers to the window. Yeah. And then here we're calling it on students. Students here refers to this object, so this refers to this object. Yeah. So that's why here this is unbinded. This it doesn't know what this is. Yeah, the way React handles event handlers is that it just calls it. Yeah, so basically we're just giving it this function. We're saying call this function, but we're not calling it directly. We're not saying okay, call this function on this particular object. Yeah. So let me show you an instance. assuming we don't bind here. So let's say we don't bind here, and then we come here, we'll get an error here. So let's come here and actually change this. So inside this input, yeah, we pass an arrow function. Sorry. Yeah. So what we're doing here is we're calling this function, we're passing it a function that is the event, and then it basically calls handle change with that event. Yeah. And then I save. When I save and I type, that works. Yeah. The reason why that works is because we're calling this thing directly. We're saying this the handle change. At this point, it knows what it refers to. It knows that this here, this value here, refers to the component, as opposed to when we're just passing the function directly. Yeah. So when we pass the function like this, when we do this here, it doesn't know what this here refers to. It just knows that, okay, you gave me a function. Yeah. So when that function gets called, it's not binded to anything. Yeah. So doing this here is the same thing as saying something like this: const callback is equals to this or handle change. Yeah. So we're just passing callback here. When this thing here gets called, there's no way for the function to know what the this is. Yeah, it doesn't know what this refers to. So that's why we have to bind it directly. So when we bind it, we're basically saying no matter when you get called, even if you get called with a parent or anything, you just know that your this refers to this. So I don't know if that was clear, but the reason why you have to bind it is so that it knows what this refers to, the object on which it's being called on. Yeah. Um Let me see. Is there any better way to explain this to you? Yeah, so I don't know if that answered your question, but for this it's more of you having to read up on it. So a very good resource for reading up on this in JavaScript is MDN. So this is Mozilla's yeah. So there's a dedicated page on Mozilla developer network just for this, yeah, where they basically explain what this is and the different instances where this works. Yeah. So in arrow functions, these are handled differently. In normal functions, this is handled differently. Yeah. So that's why in my code I rather just use arrow functions, because arrow functions are they inherit this context. Yeah. So
Right. Hello. Can you hear me?
yeah, hi. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I just want to get something clear. Are we using React? Is it that we are going to be using React to write a website as well a web page?
Sorry,
Instead of using
can you say
the
that
normal,
again?
I say, are we going to be using React to create a web page, or that is instead of using the normal HTML doc type stuff, we
Well,
are going to be using React instead to create the web
oh,
page and the web page as a whole.
okay. Well, I mean, it
I don't know if you
depends
know what I'm
on.
saying.
Oh, okay, okay. So you're saying on our projects are going to work, are we going to be using React to create them as opposed to regular
In
HTML?
general,
Okay, in general. Well, it depends. It
I mean,
depends on it depends on the project and it depends on the team you're working with. Yeah. So certain in places I've worked with, we tend to use tools like React or Vue or Angular. So three of them are single page application frameworks. Yeah. So like I already said, you just have one index of HTML file and then JavaScript. And then the benefit of using that is that it gives you the flexibility of how do I put this? Basically, you don't have to reload your page every time you move from one page to another. Yeah. Some people rather use HTML and CSS and then save that with the web server. So it depends on the team you're working on and it depends on you.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. So if I mean, it's not a necessity to use React on your project. You can still use HTML and CSS if you're comfortable, if you're just comfortable with that. But with the way the web is moving, the web is the web moves very fast. And right now, a lot of people require to use stuff like React or Vue or Angular. So yeah. So I don't know, is there any other person that has a question? All right, so I think I'll stop here for today, so I don't overwhelm you guys. So the task I'll give you guys will probably revolve around using states basically and reacting to events. Okay, you have a question. All right, go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, sorry, please. I just want to ask, what advantage does React have over Angular?
Man, that's highly subjective. I don't think so. Seeing it as Angular versus React versus Vue is up to you. It's up to how what you look for. Angular makes use of TypeScript, so TypeScript has types. Yeah. So in JavaScript, you don't have to worry about int, boolean, float, and stuff like that. In JavaScript, there are no types, but Angular uses TypeScript. Yeah, and Angular makes use of streams, RxJS, and stuff like that. So it's subjective. It depends on the person. Me personally, I just rather use whatever the team depends on, what the team wants me to use. So I use React and Vue. Yeah, and I don't see any advantage of one over the other because you can still build the same thing. You can build the same things you can build with Angular with React. It's just preference. It depends on what you prefer, what you rather use. So
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, sorry for taking you back. Oh, the assignment that was submitted to you, I
Yeah.
made you use of for loop. Through console, it print out how you want it, how you want us to present the answer. But when I
Yeah.
tried looking to render it on HTML, it's only
Yeah.
printing out the first
Element.
thing. So I have to use map. So I want to
Yeah.
know why is the limitation for for
Map
loop.
as opposed to okay. So basically, you use a for loop to count from a particular number to a certain number. So you can do a for loop from 0 to 100, 0 to 10, 1 to 10. Yeah. But with map, you run map on a particular array. Yeah. So you're going through each item in that array and you're returning a new set of items. Yeah. So in the instance, in the question I gave you, there was an array of students, I think. So what typically what you want to do in that scenario is go through that array of students, and then for each student return a HTML element or a JSX element for that student, as opposed to for loop where you're just looping directly. When you use a map, you're referencing that base array and then you're returning a new set of elements. You're transforming it into something else, into something that JavaScript, something that React understands. That's JSX. Yeah, as opposed to doing a for loop. So map just goes through every element and it says, okay, I will do this operation on each entry, and on each one it returns like this new component here. Let me open this new component. So here we're people on map, yeah, and then for each person here we're returning this. By the time we're done, we have a new array, yeah, and then JSX can understand that array because he knows that inside this array is JSX. JSX elements are inside this array. Yeah. So typically in React, when you want to loop through an array and do stuff, you will use map as opposed to for loop. Because when you're done with map, you can return a new item for each of them, for each entry there, a new JSX element for each entry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right. So Shumaye Ayotunde, you can go ahead. Oh, no audio. Can every other person hear me? Okay. Okay, so on this, by the way, I will share links in case Mozilla Developers Network doesn't, if it's too confusing, I'll share links on better explanation of how this works in JavaScript. So,
Hello, sir.
yeah, hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello,
Yeah, I can hear
sir.
you. Hello. Yeah, I can
Okay.
hear you.
Yeah, concerning the props, to be precise, initially when I came across it, then it gave me a big time issue. Not until when I started the prop type that actually helped me
Yeah,
explain. But this is my question, to be precise. When they always say, okay, fine, props is actually argument, but it was not. It was after
yeah,
until when I got to understand this prop types that I realized that there's actually difference between argument and parameters. But
yeah.
I don't know if understanding is still correct.
Okay.
That's my because
Oh,
for more props it is actually the argument to parameter. But for instance, now in this your constructor function from line 4, for instance, now when you are
yeah.
doing
Oh, I
it
can't hear you.
yourself as the programmer, you are tending to
Sorry,
see
can you
the
go back?
props as the constructor function. Can you hear
Sorry,
me?
can you go back to what you said? Your network went off a
Hello.
bit. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, where did I stop exactly?
You were saying in line 4.
Okay, yeah. In line 4, you
I think your network just went off again. Hello? Hello? So sorry, I can't hear you anymore. I don't know if you can still hear me.
your constructor function.
Okay, so I'm not sure, Shumai, I don't think I can hear you. I can't hear you actually. Can any other person hear him? So I don't know if it's my network.
I can hear you. Judy, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. So I think it might be his network.
Okay. Perhaps the out network.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I can't even hear you.
on a quick note before the what do you say?
Okay, sorry, Constant, I can hear you. I
Hello.
couldn't hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. Hello?
Is it clear now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So I said previously the mode of submission of assignments used to be assignment on their GitHub repository. So, but
Okay.
it was hard. It's hard to review. And I proposed a way that I think was better than previous way. So there's a repository there's a GitHub account for level up, and then there's a repository for assignments where they can also submit the assignments to their branches. So,
Okay.
I created a branch for every single one of them. Yeah, I created a branch for them. So I taught them that on Monday how to submit a
Okay.
pull request to their branch.
Okay.
So that's how we
Okay.
are going to submit the next assignment that you will give them. So when I
Okay.
get it from you. So yeah, so
Okay.
and then other details I'll discuss it with you personally.
Okay, no problem. All right, thanks.
Yes, that was it.
Okay. So okay, so he's back. So you can come on and ask the question.
Does
Well,
anyone have any question?
okay. Okay, so does anyone still have a question?
Any question?
All right, so
Hello?
the next assignment I give, I will pass documentation on how this works basically. And then if you have any other questions, you can just send them. I'll send resources that better explain, shed more light on them.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, okay, you're back. Hello?
Yeah, did you get the question on props that I asked?
So I stopped at page 4, I mean line 4 rather.
Okay, like from this line 4, looking at it,
Yeah.
like when you're writing it yourself, we're actually seeing props as parameter, but in the real sense, say props are actually argument to parameter. That has been confusing to me, sir, sort of.
Okay, so let me show you the difference between arguments and parameters. So it's mainly just let me see, example. Yes. Yeah. So example. All right. So yeah. So when I pass in 10 here, yeah, 10 here is the argument, yeah, and name here is the parameter. Yeah. So parameter when you're defining your function, yeah, a parameter is what someone passes in. Is this thing here. Here, name here at this point refers to a parameter, and then 10 here refers to an argument. Yeah. I think your question might be more focused on how does props work or what do props actually do or how does React pass props. But if your question is on arguments versus parameters, they're mainly just semantics. They're just naming, they're just names for things. Yeah. Arguments are what you're actually passing, are the values you're actually passing, and then parameters are like, what was that? Parameters are the names you give those arguments. So I can have age. Yeah. And then when I pass in Chukudi and 10, the first argument here is Chukudi. Yeah. When this function gets called, Chukudi gets assigned to this parameter called name. The next argument is 10. Yeah. When I pass in this argument 10, it gets assigned to this parameter age. Yeah. So arguments and parameters are just names. They're just stuff you pass to your function. At the time in which you call your function, the things you pass in are called arguments. When you're defining your function, those things are called parameters. It's just naming semantics. So exactly how do props work? So props are basically properties, yeah. And then so we have state components. So sorry, let me give this example. All right, so sorry, let me reply exactly. Yeah, so yeah, exactly. Argument parameters are placeholders for arguments. They're basically assigning those arguments to variables so you can use them in your function. Yeah. So instances of websites that are built to React. So WhatsApp for web is built to React. Facebook uses React. Instagram uses React. Airbnb uses React. So I don't know if you know about Airbnb. What else? Social websites can I even give? There's this particular website, Basic. Let me see if I can get it. But I can share a list of websites, particularly nice ones that I like that make use of React afterwards. So basically they do things that you wouldn't even expect normal websites to be able to do with React. Yeah, or to even do normally. So but you can do all of that. Like I already said, you can do most of the things you can do with React with Vue. You can do it with Angular. But the reason why people prefer React is mainly because of the ecosystem. Yeah. So they have a lot of people using React. That way it's easier to use Sorry, no, the actual company. All right, so yeah, the reason why people prefer React is because of the ecosystem they have. So what that means is that they have a lot of people that use it, and because there are plenty of people using it, plenty of people tend to contribute to it. Yeah. So let me show you an instance of why people rather use React. So there's a particular so let's assume you're working for a client now, yeah, and then you're building a payments product for them, yeah, and they want this particular product, they want people to be able to input their credit card information in the product, yeah. So let's say somebody wants to buy a TV, or somebody wants to buy something, yeah, they need to be able to input their credit card so they can buy things, yeah. There's a particular React user that builds this simple tool for credit cards, yeah. So basically this is called React credit cards, and allows you to input your credit cards in a beautiful way. So let's say I want to type a MasterCard number, so 5399, yeah, and then I can put in my name, so stuff like this. Imagine having to build something like this from scratch yourself. You can imagine the stress of having to build something like this from scratch. But when you have a good ecosystem or a good set of people that work with a particular tool, they tend to give back, or they tend to create tools that make it easier to work with it. So basically, React has a good ecosystem. Angular has one too, Vue has one too, but it's just up to you. So like now, if I'm using Visa starts with 411. If I type 411, it changes. If I type 3700, American Express, it changes. So like React has like a really nice ecosystem, like for using stuff. There's which other tool that I haven't really like again. Then there's a lot. I can't remember right now, but there's a lot. But this is a very nice example of like why before picking a tool, you check how well the ecosystem is, how many people use it. The people that actually use it, do they care about it enough to build tools that other people can use? Yeah. So yeah, basically, I will send you a list of websites that built with React. Sure. I can't remember how many right now, but yeah, and on how props work. So basically, we have state components here. Yeah. So I'll go to my index.js. Yeah. And properties, prop stands for properties. Yeah. There are things that you pass to your components. So I can pass something like name is equals to test. Yeah. So basically, what I'm doing here is I'm saying this state component has a property called name. Yeah. So I save. All right. So when I come here, let me load the properties. Also load props. Yeah. And I come here. Let me open my app. All right. So when I reload my page, I see name is equals to test. Yeah. So here props here is an object, and I can see an entry called name test. Yeah, and that refers to what I pass in here. Yeah. So basically, this whole thing here, React passes your properties as objects. Yeah. So if I pass age is equals to 10, yeah. When I reload, my props will have age is equals to 10. Yeah. But the problem is the reason why we need to call super props is because under the hood in the background, React or components has a lot of features. It does a lot of stuff. Yeah. So it does a lot of stuff with props. Yeah, it transforms your props into stuff that I can actually into objects that I can actually use. So that's why I need to inform it of props. That's why I need to call super props. I have to let you know that okay, these props are here. This is what do with it whatever I want to do with it. Yeah, basically informing it of the existence of those props. Yeah. So you can let me see which other technical we can explain props. But basically are just properties. There are stuff you pass in like this, name, age, anything you want it to be, and they appear as objects. But you need to let React or components know about props. Is props a keyword or convention? It's a keyword in the sense that when I come here, I can do something like dist or props. Sorry, let me do dist or props. So it's a keyword. Yeah. So in this instance here, this of props is actually defined. Yeah. But the parameters, like I already said, parameters are placeholders. Yeah. So parameters can be anything. I can name this one properties, and it will still work. Yeah. Let me console the log properties. So it's a keyword, but it also depends on how you want to use it. So here I can, if I log properties, it will refer to that same object. Yeah. But people, it's idiomatic. Idiomatic meaning that it's a standard thing. It's what most people do. It's conventional thing to do to name it props. Yeah. So I just use props here. I just use props here. But there's an actual property on this called this props. Yeah. And log the same thing. Yeah. So over time, as you write React, you notice that there are lots of things that people tend to do because it's the standard, it's the conventional thing to do. Yeah, you don't really have to do them, but it's a conventional thing to do. You can name this anything. Yeah, but it's a conventional thing to do because there's already a property called this.props. So to avoid confusion, you just name it props so that anyone that comes along knows that okay, it's called props and there actually exists a property called props on the object. So yeah. I think I might be having network because okay, so is there any other question? Any question? Okay, all right, so let me quick summary of everything. So basically we talked about states today and how states works and events, yeah, and how to handle events, yeah, and event handlers. So basically when an event, okay, someone is okay, so basically when an event occurs, you usually want to handle that event, so you pass an event handler, and this is an example of an event handler. And then your event handler, usually let's say you want to set the state, you need to call this to set state. But the problem is the method might not know what this refers to if you're using a regular function. So you need to bind it. Yeah. So yeah, I think someone wants to ask a question. So hello? Okay. Okay, so if there are no questions, I
Sorry,
think I'll
maybe I
end.
should mute my mic.
Yeah, sorry, what?
No, my mic was on mute before, so I also muted it. I wanted to ask for a recap, but before I asked, you already started it, so I'll just mute
Okay.
my mic.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So let me just go back again. I think I was going too fast in the recap. All right, so we talked about states today, and state is any data that will change over time in your components. Is any data that you care about? Yeah. So in this instance, we care about we want to track how many times someone has clicked the button. Yeah. So if the button has been clicked 10 times, we want to show that okay, this button has been clicked 10 times. Yeah. So in order to keep track of that, we need something called states. Yeah. And sorry, let me turn it back to 0. So in order to do that, we create a button, yeah, and then we actually output how many times that state has been clicked. I mean that particular button has been clicked. So we say this is the state or count, yeah. But the problem is the first time we create it, count is 0. We need some sort of way to actually update our state whenever that button is clicked. Yeah. And in order to do that, we need to listen for the event, the click event on that button. Yeah. So we come to our button. Huh?
But if you want to pronounce words for it,
Sorry, I can't really hear you. Can you start? Yeah. Hello? Hello? Okay. I can't really hear you, sorry. Okay. So I can't hear you, but if I hear you, I will answer. All right. So what was I saying? All right, so yeah, so we want to react when that button gets clicked. Yeah. So in order to react to that change, we have an event handler. Yeah, and basically we're saying on click is the extension. Okay. So let me just show you what the extension looks like. React. What is it? Is it an extension? Let me see. Do you know I actually can't remember the extension name again because I just searched for it. Okay, I think what's the name of this extension? Sorry, just give me. Is there any way I can contact you like after this if I remember the name? Because I actually can't remember the name of the extension right now at this point. Because I thought it was a React extension, but basically allows me, gives me autocompletes and stuff like that. So if I remember, I might pass it along with the assignment. I'll make a note. Okay, I'll check my stored extensions. Okay. So enabled. Let me see. No, it's not. So the thing is, it's not even a specific. I think it's more of a. I think it's Babel ES6 stroke ES7. It's not. So the thing is, it's not a React specific extension. It's more of VS Code using with Babel and just knowing. So I can also set the language mode. Sorry. So I set the language. So when I set the language mode to React, I get React like suggestions and even that stuff about not calling super. The error I get. It's more VS Code. It's not the extension giving me that suggestion. It's more VS Code giving me the suggestion. So when you set, you can change your language mode. Oh, the person means Emmet. Oh, you need Emmet. Oh, the person means Emmet. So Emmet is an extension for HTML, but Emmet is not specific to React. Emmet is you can search for Emmet, but Emmet is, I think I have Emmet installed. Or I think VS Code even comes with Emmet. VS Code comes with Emmet. So with Emmet, you can do stuff like p times 5, and I have 5 key tags. So if your VS Code doesn't come with Emmet, you can install it. But that one is not. It's not a React thing. It's a HTML thing. Exactly. So it comes with VS Code. All right. So recap on what we did today. So we want an instance where once you click on this button, we want to update our state. So if the first time I click the button, I want to increment my state by 1. The second time I want to increment it by 1, but it should now be 2. So 1, 2, 3. It should keep on increasing every time I click. Yeah. So I use an event handler. Yeah, and I pass that method. It's called this.handle click. Yeah, and then inside here, basically, I'm just saying count is equals to this.state.count plus 1. So I'm basically just adding 1 to my count. Yeah. So the first time is going to be 1, second time is going to be 2, third time is going to be 3. But the problem with that is that it doesn't know what this is. Yeah. So we have to bind it. Now, in order to bind a method, we create a constructor. Yeah. And the constructor will get called with props. React calls our constructor with props. And then we need to let React the component know about the props. So we do super props, meaning that we're calling the parent class with that property. So we're letting the parent class know the properties. Yeah. So we're saying super and we're calling it with props. Yeah. And then we bind it. So we're saying this.handle click is equals to this.handle click dot bind this. Yeah. So that way it knows what this refers to. Yeah. And then once we do that, we can now safely set our state. Yeah. So every time I click this, it will increment just like we want it to. Yeah. And then the next thing we did was to create an input element that every time we type, we can see the output in a different place. Yeah. So we create an input type of text. The name is task. The placeholder is type something. Yeah, and then like I already said, we need to listen for an event, and the event we care about is the change event. So every time in an input element, every time you type something, it changes. It emits a change event. Every single time you type it emits a change event. Yeah. So we want to listen to that event, and then we want to react on that event. So we have a handler for that. This is handle change, and basically this is handle change gets the event. And like I said, an event occurs on HTML elements. Yeah. So in order to access the elements that the event occurred on, we do event.target. Yeah. So when we do event.target, we have access to this actual element here, this element that the event occurs on. Yeah. And then because we have access to events, we can have access. Because we have access to the elements, we have access to the value. So the value is what you type in. Yeah. So we say event.target.value, and then we have access to that value here. And then basically we just set our task state to that value. And then we output it here. Yeah. So when we reload our page, you can see whatever we type here showing up here. Yeah. So I'll put the code on the GitHub repository so you can look at it as reference if it will help. So yeah, I think that's a recap. So Maiwa, is there any closing notes you might want to say? Okay. All right. So all right. Okay. So seeing as there's no question and I've done the recap, I think we'll stop here for today. So I'll pass the assignment along to Maiwa, and then he will send it to you guys. So have a nice day, everybody. I hope the class was helpful. So yeah. All right. You're welcome. Sorry. All right. Bye.